Hello, BookTube. Well, it's now October, and that is the month of the year in which there are no less than 45 read-alongs here on BookTube that you are required to participate in. Yes, this innocent little gathering place that you thought was just an outlet to celebrate your hobby of reading in the fellowship of other readers now reveals itself to be a ghoulish Fourth Reich that is going to monopolize your entire life. So you are going to have to postpone your plastic surgery, you are going to have to divorce your significant other or others, you're going to have to distance yourself from all of your friends and family in order to devote your time to all the read-alongs that require your attention on BookTube in October. And I myself am at the helm of a few of those. And one of them that I'm participating in is OcTolkien, in which Justin at Ghost Reader and James Chatham and yours truly expect you to read the complete works of J.R.R. Tolkien in the month of October. So you had best get cracking. And we're gonna divvy them up in terms of what we talk about. I'm not quite sure what their schedule will be. They have this thing you all refer to as real lives, so they might not update quite as often as I do. But my portion of Tolkien's writing for the month of October is the Silmarillion, which I just recently found in a trade paperback because my mass market is just falling apart. It's the one that I've read for the last 45 years, and I don't think it could stand up to this read-along. Although I found just recently, in fact I hauled on this channel, a trade paperback that I found that will do the job just fine. It's not the ideal Silmarillion that I would want, but the only problem with it was it had a boring cover. It had a cover picture of elves stretching and yawning, waking up from a long, nice, peaceful nap. Which is not my idea of a dynamic cover. So I changed its cover. Now it has a dragon fighting men in armor in front of a medieval-style city, which is a scene that happens a few times in the Silmarillion. Isn't that so much better than elves waking up from a nap? And this is what I'm going to be doing in the month of OcTolkien. I'm going to be doing the Silmarillion. I want to urge you all to go to Lukas's channel and look at his series of videos on the Silmarillion. Watch them. I will link to them. They are, what I'm going to do in October can only at best be an adjunct to what he did. Justin and James and I didn't invite him along to OcTolkien because we don't like him, because he smells. But that doesn't mean you can't watch his videos. And some of you were asking, well, if you're doing the Silmarillion for OcTolkien, how should we divvy it up? Well, I thought I would tell you that. The first week of OcTolkien, for me, is going to be, the Silmarillion is weirdly arranged. We're going to be talking about all of its oddities over the course of the month. But the first two bits of it are the Ainulindale and the Valaquente. And the Ainulindale is the story of the supernatural beings of Tolkien's world. God and all of his assistant gods. And it is descriptive. It's not a fiction narrative in the sense that it's more like reading Edith Hamilton's mythology. There's precious little in the way of dialogue. There's nothing in the way of drama. As Tolkien learns really early on, and as most writers learn really early on, there is no possibility of drama if your central character is all-powerful. Somehow, by some miracle of rhetorical magic, John Milton gets around that fact in Paradise Lost. But one way or another, the Ainulindale it's not long, and it gives you a basic that you need to know. You're going to need to know a lot of these characters for the upcoming stories. And the same thing with the Valaquenta. The Valaquenta is just a breakdown, person by person, individual by individual, of the natures and the provinces and the earliest adventures of the Valar, who are also the gods of Tolkien's legendarium. They're not the one and only god, but they still are all powerful. They are supernatural beings to a far greater extent than the other supernatural beings who populate Tolkien's world. And you're going to need to know about those people. I scrunch my nose up because those bits of the Silmarillion are just, I don't know what Tolkien's deal was, as the kids say. I don't know what his deal was with the openings of his books. I just don't. I don't know what his deal is with the openings of his books. He wrote one of the greatest fantasy epics of all time in The Lord of the Rings. But an unwary reader going into it knowing nothing has to wade through a treatise on agriculture before they get anywhere near the epic story. I'm okay with that story starting slow and building in momentum, but I don't want it to start with a treatise on agriculture, and this is the same thing. The Silmarillion is a grand story. Believe it or not, despite what some of its critics say, it is actually close to being one story. There is one main narrative that runs its way through this whole book, except for the beginning. Except for the beginning. The beginning is a classic Tolkien thing, where he is sitting you down and insisting that you memorize his mythology. That you memorize stuff you do not need, and that will only barely impinge on the stories. You need to know who these supernatural characters are, because they're going to crop up at vital moments throughout the rest of the book. But you're not going to be involved. Don't expect to be involved. You will love the gorgeous diction. When Tolkien is writing a King James knockoff of high epic, rounded these and thous, nobody touches him. And the beginning of this book, the two sections that we will read for next weekend, they're that in the highest register. So you will like that part of it. You will like that aspect of it. But you'll be looking for what all readers are looking for, right? Which is a great story. And there's no great story in these first two bits, which is going to makes this reading assignment all the less savory. And nevertheless, because this is October on BookTube, you have to do it. Your attendance on all of these events is mandatory. You thought this was a nice, fun thing on YouTube, but now we're worse than the beauty channels. That sound you hear in the background is not the gentle turning of pages in a picturesque library. It's the crack of the whip. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the Silmarillion. And for those of you who like to plan ahead, you type A personalities who like to plan ahead, we're going to do the Ainulindalë and the Valaquenta first. That's going to be for this coming weekend. And that doesn't take long. That won't take you more than half an hour to read. You might want to go over it again and again to soak up the details, because the diction at first, unless you're accustomed to reading the Book of English Prayer, the Book of Common Prayer, and the King James Bible, unless you're accustomed to reading that sort of thing, you're going to need to read it a few times to really get a grip on it, but it's still not long. It won't take you any time at all. Then the next section is the Quenta Silmarillion, which is the main bulk of the book. It's the huge bulk of the book. And for that, we are going to read, so for the following weekend after next, we're going to read from part 1 of the Quenta Silmarillion, which is Of the Beginning of Days, all the way down to part 12 of Men. We're going to read that. We're going to read the whole beginning of the Quenta Silmarillion for the following weekend. Then, if I think what we'll do is finish the Quenta Silmarillion in the third weekend, or the second weekend, right? Yeah, okay. Sorry, September's 5 weekends threw me off. So the first thing we're going to do for next weekend is the Ainulindalë and the Valaquenta. Those two heavily mythological opening chapters of the Silmarillion. Then, for the weekend after that, we're going to do the first half, roughly, of the Quenta Silmarillion, all the way to the chapter and through the chapter of Men. Then, the weekend after that, we'll do Of the Sun and the Moon and the Hiding of Valinor, all the way to book 24, which is Of the Voyage of Arendil and the War of Wrath. Okay? So, we're going to split the Quenta Silmarillion in two. So we'll do the mythological books first, then the 2 weekends covering the Quenta Silmarillion, and then we will finish up with the book called the Akalabeth, and the final book. We won't deal with the appendices or the final tables or anything like that. Although there's tons of interesting stuff in them, just like in the appendices to Lord of the Rings. There's tons of interesting stuff in there, but we're going to dispense with them for now. There'll be other OcTolkiens. We're going to finish up with the Akalabeth and Of the Rings of Power and the Third Age. A chapter called Of the Rings of Power and the Third Age, which I maintain is one of the most remarkable things that any writer has ever written. And I will get to that in due time, so make sure you smash that like button and hit the bell for notification. No, I will get to that when the time comes. But first, we're going straight mythology. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to talk about next weekend. So pull down your Silmarillion, fashion a good cover for it, mainly a dragon, and off we go to the races for OcTolkien. I will link, if I remember correctly, I will link down below Lukas' suite of videos on the Silmarillion, because he's a diehard Tolkien fan. And I will also link my 2 collaborators, my 2 partners in crime for OcTolkien, so that you can follow them as well. And that's it for now, but I'll be back. I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.